Hi, this is Christine with Where's Watson? Today I'm with Enoch, one of the instructors in our data science and machine learning program, to talk about artificial intelligence. We are actually in the Internet of Things class or classroom, I suppose, where we store our Internet of Things devices.
That's correct.
So Enoch, can you tell me a little bit about this room and what it's meant for first?
So as you referenced, this is the IoT room. So every single device in here is internet accessible. That's what it means. So we can communicate with it, we can control it, we can issue commands to it via the internet, like the fridge right here. So this can take it in a voice prompt, and it can tell you and you can tell it what to do. So you can look at this, and it will give you a snapshot of the food in the fridge, how many days the food has been there. So every single device in this room is internet accessible and operable, and you can issue commands to it.
Wonderful. Now, part of the data that's coming from all of these machines eventually go into things like artificial intelligence. So we've heard a lot about artificial intelligence and tools like ChatGPT.
Great.
And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the impact that the greater awareness about artificial intelligence has had on teaching and learning in particular. So as a post-secondary, we were really interested in how artificial intelligence is going to impact our sectors and impact our teaching and learning. So I'm wondering if you can just start by talking about what artificial intelligence is and what we need to be thinking about it as educators.
So there's the word artificial right in the term artificial intelligence. So human beings, we have this innate ability to perform certain functions, and that's because it's inbuilt in us. So if I had seen you for the first time, the next time I see you, some computations would basically fire up in my neurons, and I'm like, wait a second, I've seen this face before.
Right.
That is facial recognition.
Okay.
That translates to computer vision, where we feed an algorithm data. Of course, AI runs on data.
Yes.
That's a prerequisite. So you feed it data, and it's able to learn patterns and associations of what is what. So once you're able to learn that, you learn a set of parameters, and then you can feed it data that it hasn't seen. It can use the learned parameters in the model to infer what the labels would be for the test data that you have provided. And just like we have seen this in settings in the home, for example, smart homes now,
Yes.
where you can remote control the thermostat in your home before you get home. It can start heating up before you get there. If you have something in a smart oven, you can cook up to a certain temperature and tell it to hold it at warm for a particular period of time before you get home. This is all there. Likewise, in education, we also have assistive educational technology. This began in the form of Grammarly and other things.
Yes.
That's what's going on
Yes.
there.
Yes.
So there must be tons of data where
Yes.
Grammarly is learning to correct your grammar, your writing, and even offer you the next words that should come. So these are word co-occurrences. So if I've written the word maybe winter, it might predict that, hey, the next word is a storm. Say, oh, are you going for winter storm? Like, yeah, I just click and it just
Right.
auto-correct and all that.
Yes.
So auto-suggestions, that is there as well. Now, this has gone to a new level, the generative level, where now we have ChatGPT.
Okay.
So chat means that you can interact with it via natural language, such as text or images, that kind of thing. And then it's going to take your request, process it, and return to you answers from the trained data, the data it was trained on and the parameters, and then return to you what it thinks matches what you're looking for. That is in terms of an answer. So this is the ChatGPT era.
Wow. So I'm wondering what you have heard from students about how they have been using artificial intelligence in their work. Not just the data science students, but students generally. How are they starting to experiment with ChatGPT and other forms of AI?
Experiments they have, they do it. that I know. I have had students submit assignments to me, and I was able to detect that they had used generative tools. So that's ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear. So ChatGPT, because it is very structured,
Yes.
I can tell from their responses that this was generated by such a tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to them. So this is already happening, and ChatGPT is extremely efficient in tasks that are very structured and still very low level. So
Right.
it knows the structure and the procedure to go through to get you something. It's already there. So,
Right.
but where there are little nuances that it can't do, but where process is pretty well defined and it's very structured, it will produce answers that will amaze you in terms of the accuracy.
Yes. So as a post-secondary institution, we've got faculty members across RRC Polytech who are wondering what they should know about AI, or why AI would be important to them in the healthcare sector or the business sector. What do you think the impact of AI will be for education, but also just in general, just in industry?
An impact to start with is automation and also academic integrity. Now, a lot of the things that we often did in a very manual and kind of rudimentary way, now it can be automated. ChatGPT can basically do that for you in a matter of seconds or minutes.
Right.
So now that speaks to automation, but also in terms of academic integrity, now we have to evaluate what that means in terms of course and learning outcomes. If somebody just uses ChatGPT to accomplish the learning outcomes, is that maybe what we are going for versus actually being able to produce those learning outcomes maybe by yourself, but say with help from assistive tools.
Right.
We have to create a balance.
Yes.
If we have to create this balance, this is where we have to start looking at higher level outcomes in Bloom's taxonomy.
Yes.
Because lower level, ChatGPT is great at doing that. State this, do that. It's going to give you answers that would amaze you. But where we need to start incorporating nuances in terms of human responses, that will be at the higher level of Bloom's taxonomy, and ChatGPT cannot do that.
That's right.
So we can create a balance between those two.
That's right. So the way that we've been approaching it is as a tool for teaching and learning, but that really we want to look at authentic assessment.
Yes.
So, and that when you talk about the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, that's what we're talking about, is critical thinking, creativity. How do we ensure that students are demonstrating at those higher levels of thought, and making sure that we have the assessment that can actually have them demonstrate that work?
That is absolutely correct.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for being such an expert for the institution. I know that we have had you supporting us and really thinking about what the future of AI is for post-secondary. So thank you so much for being on Where's Watson today.
Thank you, and I'm happy to do my part.
All right. Bye.